Live
Hello,
streamed.
hello.
Yes. Okay, now we're being live streamed. Hi, Max, or Emmy, or both of you. Hello, Louise. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to do it.
Hello, everyone.
You can if you want to. I'm okay either way.
Hello, hello. Hi, Patricia. How are you?
I'm hanging in. How about you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yeah, not too bad. How's things been? I
Well,
presume the snow
I'm
by you
struggling.
melted.
I'm struggling with some serious medical issues. So, it's, you know, issues with doctors and the medical system here are not the greatest. So,
Yeah. No, it is not. No, it is not. Oy. Well, hopefully the better weather will bring with it, uh, you know, just better everything. I hope.
well, certainly better vibes, but the rain was nice. I went out, I put my face up to the rain. Very glad that I'm not in the hospital or in a nursing home or something else. I like to feel the rain on my face.
Well, you know what? I really appreciate the silver lining that you're doing. It's great. I think we all need to do a little bit more of that,
Well,
you
there's a
know.
practice that I was reading about by a Buddhist Shaolin master, and he said go out and stand outside for 5 minutes in the cold. So I've taken up that challenge. But of course, we had 3 days that were really nice, um, and that was easy. Today it was a little chilly, but I had to go back out and put some things in my car, and I just went out in my pajamas and bare feet. Okay, it wakes you up.
That certainly does. Yeah. Nice. I'm glad that that's working for you.
Hello, friends. We're at 7:30. We'll start our service at about 7:35. Okay, we'll see you very soon.
And I see Marilyn is here. Hi, Marilyn. Happy belated birthday. Marilyn's birthday was on March 15th, the Ides of March.
Thank you, Kathy, for mentioning it. I'm,
Well, happy birthday.
thank you.
Every
Very
day is
kind.
kind of a birthday. Every day is a new start.
That's true. That is true. Well, I hope it was a good birthday, Marilyn.
My niece insisted on seeing me, and I had plans to go into Philly for a concert. So I met her and her entourage for lunch at a local town. And then
Oh,
she
that's
took her
nice.
boys to the new dinosaur museum.
Oh, cool. That's nice. Oh, it sounds like you had a nice birthday. Now, I hope they sang to you and embarrassed you at the restaurant because
Well,
that's
they
tradition.
didn't, but I went to a concert and I had a reception afterwards and I left to catch the train. And apparently the organizers of the concert had planned on embarrassing me with
Oh,
happy birthday. So they called me up and sang to me over the phone.
oh, that's nice. That's really nice. Oh, I'm happy to hear that. I had my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and some friends took me out, and it was very nice. They also sang in their own unique way, and it was very lovely, very lovely. Let's see, iPhone. Where is iPhone? Carol, is that you on the iPhone? Or maybe it's someone else on the iPhone. Who knows?
Just trying to keep up our the attendance records. I'm not being too great, but someone's who's iPhone 508? If you're on a phone, they probably won't see the chat. I just realized.
The iPhone wishes to remain anonymous.
Or stepped away from the phone. One or the other.
Elijah. It's Elijah.
Ah, thanks. I was thinking, oh, we have someone named Elijah, and then I'm like, Dahlia.
We're coming up on Pesach.
That was a good one, Emmy. That
It
was a good
was.
one.
I'm so earnest. Before Howard met me, there were all these jokes people would tell and or try and make things, and I'm credulous. I'm taking everything seriously and literally. I'm very, very earnest. The earnest Dahlia.
You're not alone. I thought it was someone from the congregation named Elijah too. It wasn't until Emmy explained it, and spelled it out that I was like, oh, okay, that's funny.
Nothing like a joke you need to explain. It's gone over well.
Well,
Those are
I
usually
got
really
it
good
when I
ones.
started to write Elijah, and then I'm like, I don't think so.
But those are usually the good jokes, They have depth to them.
Okay, I'll take it.
Here's
Max
have
said it's a delayed impact.
That's true. He's not wrong. I have a not this joke has no depth to it. It's very corny. But two fish are in a tank and one says to the other, "Do you know how to drive this thing?" So, not quite as witty as yours, Evie.
No, that's pretty good.
Oh, and Judith is here. Hi, Judith.
How are you, Kathy?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I came for the music, but if the jokes are good, that's fine.
So how goes the preparations for the Buddhist inspired Passover?
No, it was not Buddhist inspired. That was when we did Lunar New Year. That's over.
For some reason I thought the soup was a continuation.
Soup just flows from every culture, but I do have a gluten-free matzo ball mix, and there will be a rehearsal. We'll be making the soup that we plan to serve with the gluten-free matzahs balls in advance, and if it doesn't come out right, we're gonna have to regroup. But it should go well.
Very nice. I hope it does go well.
Or yes, food is. We want the food to be good, but food is not the main point. So
That's true. That's true.
So how are
And
things?
we'll start in just a moment. Sorry for the delay.
Oh, Max and Emmy, shame on you. Shame on you two for eating during the thing. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Shane.
It's completely my fault. I was wrapped up in work and was not paying attention to the time. But here we are.
Well, I was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
I'm glad to hear.
Good. I refuse to be shamed.
I thought the was a good indicator of that, but I guess not.
Eh, it's always tough. It's always tough to land subtlety over Zoom. You're fine.
That's true. Enjoy your day.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will begin our service. I am not going to be giving a sermon or a message before the service because I will be talking afterwards. So when that happens, I usually will leave my piece for afterwards. So welcome everyone, and we'll start with our first song.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Great. So we're going to start off with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShabbat, Ohavei Shabbat Shalom. Welcome and treasure things that bring us pleasure, for now our work week is done. Turn from daily earning, take some time for learning, use this day for friends and family. Shabbat binds us, serves us, and reminds us of the values we shared through history. Shalom Aleichem, Ohavei HaShabbat, Ohavei Shabbat Shalom. Join us and sing out, let each Shabbat bring about strength from all that we've known. Turn from daily earning, take some time for learning, use this day for friends and family. Shabbat binds us, serves us, and reminds us of the values we shared through history.
Thank you. So Dahlia, please, will you read the welcome?
Sure. The past, present, and future are timelessly linked in the spinning circle of life. Our past was the seed that became the present. We can make it bloom in the future if we nurture it with love, respect, and understanding of the shared culture and heritage that we call life. We gather tonight as Jews have long gathered to create Shabbat. Let us pause from our everyday lives to make it a special time. Let us put aside the demands, expectations, and pace of our daily existence to celebrate Shabbat. Let the possibilities of this time together be embraced. Let every potential for wisdom, harmony, and joy be realized. Shabbat is a time of peace, contemplation, introspection, understanding, and hope. It is a time for love, laughter, and joy to be shared by all gathered here. Shabbat is a time for learning about the goodness of life, for reaffirming our identity and our beliefs. It is a time for having the courage to express the best within us. Let us grasp these moments and cherish them.
Thank you, Dahlia. We turn to our candlelighting. We renew ourselves for the week ahead so that we will have strength for ourselves, our families, and our part in making the world a better place. We kindle the lights of Shabbat as symbols of human enlightenment and human compassion, to celebrate our coming together, to illuminate our lives and the warmth we find in our community. We remember the generations before us who lit candles as we do and found beauty and serenity in their light. Let us say together, Na'eh ha'or ba'olam, na'eh ha'or ba'adam, na'eh ha'or b'Shabbat, nokir et or HaShabbat. How wonderful is the light in the world. How wonderful is the light within humanity. How wonderful is the light of Shabbat. We cherish the light of Shabbat.
Na'eh ha'or ba'olam, na'eh ha'or ba'adam, na'eh ha'or b'Shabbat, nokir et or השבת. איפה אורי, אורי בי, איפה תקוותי, תקוותי בי, איפה כוחי, כוחי בי, וגם בה, וגם בה, איפה כוחי, כוחי בי, וגם בה, וגם בה. Where is my light? My light is in me. Oh, sorry, I thought I heard something. Where is my hope? My hope is in me. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you. Where is my strength? My strength is in me. And in you, and in you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Okay. On Shabbat, we celebrate and reaffirm our Jewish identity. A Jew is someone who identifies with the history, culture, and future of the Jewish people. We make connections to our past through our ancestors and to our future by leading meaningful lives. We believe that Jewish identity is best preserved in a free, pluralistic environment that honors all cultures. We believe in the nobility of human fellowship and the joy of unity. The freedom and dignity of the Jewish people must go hand in hand with the freedom and dignity of every human being. Human beings possess the power and responsibility to shape their own lives independent of supernatural authority. Jewish history is a human saga, a testament to the significance of human power and human responsibility. We believe in the gift of human reason and the strength of human potential to shape our own lives. Okay, Rebecca?
We're going to be singing Naaseh Shalom. Naaseh Shalom ba'olam, Naaseh Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, v'imru shalom, Naaseh Shalom, Naaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu, ve'al kol ha'olam, Naaseh Shalom, Naaseh Shalom, Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Na'aseh shalom, na'aseh shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam.
Thank you, Rebecca. Now is a good time for us to share news. If there's something that you would like to share that's happened in the past week or so, that's now's a good time. And I first want to take the opportunity of wishing Carol, who's with us, happy, very, very significant birthday. So I don't know if she's on camera anymore, but happy birthday, Carol. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Max.
Oh, well, it's not huge news, but Lucy's coming home for spring break in a couple days, and we're very happy. Tomorrow morning, in fact.
Wonderful.
I told you that my time management was not doing great tonight, and we're very
Wonderful. Well, I hope she's having a great second semester.
So,
anyone else would like to share? Kathy.
Yeah, my birthday was on the 8th and my friends took me out. And it was the first time since 2019 that I actually celebrated my birthday. So it was quite a big deal to me. It was really nice. And yeah, I did a birthday for the first time in a while.
Well, wonderful. Yes, Rebecca.
Hi. So I think some of you know this, but basically over the summer, I talked a little bit about how I worked on a film for Netflix, and the trailer just got released for it. It's going to be streaming on Netflix next month. I'm actually in the trailer, which I didn't think was gonna happen. I'm in there for like a second, but it's really cool. And the film's
Wow.
called
Well, give us
Rookies.
put the link in the chat.
Yeah, I will. I'll make sure to do that. But yeah, so that's been fun.
Wonderful. 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 Okay. Anybody else would like to share? Otherwise, let's we'll have opportunity afterwards. Let's go on with our next song.
Great. So our next song is gonna be Lo Alecha. I'm realizing I should wait till the lyrics come up. Yeah. Lo alecha hamlecha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlecha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, velo ata ben chorin laibatel mimena, velo ata ben chorin. Velo ata ben chorin laibatel mimena, velo ata ben chorin. Lo alecha hamlecha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor, lo alecha hamlecha ligmor, lo alecha ligmor.
Thank you, Rebecca. We will now continue. Okay. There are many ways to connect. There are many ways to belong. Some people find a loving partner and choose commitment. Some have children and nurture them with tender care. Others live the single life. Strangers meet strangers and become good friends. Good friends can become as close as family. Clans and tribes, nations and peoples all embrace their members and give them security of identity and roots. The ever-changing contemporary Jewish family challenges our notions and stereotypes of a model family unit. Many Jews who have felt excluded from the tribal family in years past still hope to find their place within the Jewish community. Secular culture has new models of what constitutes a family: single mothers and fathers, non-married adults who co-parent, gay couples, couples without children, and families of one are only some of the examples of the expanded definition of a modern family. Our congregation seeks to expand our understanding and make space for everyone. As the Jewish community grows in its awareness of the Jewish family, that Jewish families come in varied configurations, including intercultural and interracial families, so too may our institutions grow to be open to the diversity of families today. With so much emphasis on traditional families, unmarried adults often feel sidelined in Jewish communal life. As more adults remain single, let us be clear that they are a welcome, integral part of our humanistic Jewish community. Okay. For those in need. In this community, where we find the strength and common purpose, we now turn our hearts and minds towards those who need our love, who are ill, who are lonely, who suffer pain, or who have been wronged. If you have the name of somebody you are thinking about, now is a good time to say their name.
Fred Rogenstein.
Thank you, girl. Samantha. Okay. May all who suffer know they are not alone. May they experience Refuah Shlema, the renewal of body and spirit.
Makom hakoach betochenu, Mekor מקורות הברכה מחברותינו. May the source of strength that dwells so deep within us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Shalom. Makom hakoach betochenu bekorot habracha mechavrotenu. May those in need of healing know refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Shalom.
Memorial. Let us proclaim the preciousness of life. Let us show gratitude for life by approaching it with reverence. Let us embrace the whole world, even as we wrestle with its parts. Let us each in our own way take up our share in serving the world and seeking truth. May our commitment to life help us to strengthen healing of spirit and peace of mind in ourselves and others. And let us say, Lu Yahi, may it be so. If you have the name of somebody you are remembering today, now is a good time to say their name. Howard.
Oh, I mentioned this
Howard.
that time. My father passed away 21 years ago at around this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Zecher Tzadik.
Zecher Tzadik Livracha, Zecher Tzadik Livracha. With our tears and our sorrow, we remember Zecher Tzadik Livracha. With our courage and our strength, we do not forget acts of kindness, deeds of courage will remain. Death cannot take that which is locked in our hearts. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May the memory of good people bless our days. Zecher Tzadik Livracha.
Thank you, Rebecca. Blessing over wine. We celebrate the fruit of the vine and nature's gifts. As we bend nature to our pleasure, we also think about our duties as caretakers of this planet. We dedicate this wine to the joy of Shabbat, to the lives of generations past and generations to come, and to the planet that sustains us. Let us say together, Na'im ha'chaim ba'olam, Na'im ha'chaim banu, Na'im megadlei pri hagafen l'chaim. We celebrate the life within the world. We celebrate the life within us. We cherish those who grow and tend the fruit of the vine, l'chaim, to life.
Na'im ha'chaim ba'olam, Na'im ha'chaim banu, Na'im migadlei pri hagafen l'chaim.
Challah. Breaking bread together is an ancient custom in many cultures. It signifies sharing, fellowship, and coming together in peace. We reenact this ritual together as a sign of our common humanity, our care for one another, and for those less fortunate than ourselves. Let us say together, Na'e matnat hamazon, Na'e aman kapenu, Na'e lechem haaretz b'te'avon. How wonderful is the gift of food, how wonderful is the work of our hands. How wonderful is the bread of the earth. We cherish those who bring forth bread from the earth.
Na'e manat hamazon, Na'e amal kapenu, Na'e lechem haaretz b'te'avon.
Kathy, can I ask you to read the concluding thoughts?
Yes. Each of us is here for a temporary stay on Earth. For what purpose, I don't know. But it is plain that we exist for our fellow humans, in the first place for those upon whose smiles and welfare our happiness depends, and the next for those unknown to us personally, but to whose destinies we are bound by the tie of sympathy. 100 times a day I remind myself that my inner and outer life depends on the labor of others, living and dead, that I must exert myself in order to give in the measure as I have received and am still receiving.
Thank you, Kathy. We will have our final song.
Great. Our final song is gonna be Odiavo. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol haolam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol haolam. Salam, salam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu, Odiavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Before we get on with our program, just some announcements. We have our congregational Seder in 8 days on I think it is March 28th. Yes, March 28th at one of our West Side locations. You can register for it. It's at 6:30 p.m. On the same day, earlier in the afternoon, not overlapping, is a one of the many No Kings marches that are around the country. One of them is starting in Manhattan. A group of us from TCC are going. You are very welcome to contact Susan Ryan and join those who are going to protest. Other than that, we have our regular classes that are going on in the coming week at least. Afterwards, there's Passover and a different schedule, but on Tuesdays and Thursdays we have our Reading the Bible Through Humanist Eyes at 10:30 a.m. Which is celebrating its right now actually celebrating its 6th anniversary. And we also have our introduction to Judaism, the first and third Thursdays of each month at 7:30 p.m. And modern Jewish history. That varies. Will always be on Sunday, but the time varies depending on whether it is in person or virtual. The next class is going to be virtual, and it is a makeup class for those who missed the first class. It is so it will be at 7:30 p.m. on Sunday, the 29th of March. You are very welcome to ask me any questions about the class and sign up. And the Talmud class is continuing to meet on Mondays, Peter.
Yep, and we're working with a fascinating tractate. I'm doing a plug, apparently. It's Rosh Hashanah, although not dealing with Rosh Hashanah, but Nisan, which we're in now, and it's fascinating. So anybody has a hankering to delve into this, I suggest let us know. 7 o'clock, 7 o'clock on Monday.
7 o'clock on Monday. Great. We have also our model kids school Seder for anybody who for younger people that want a child family friendly Seder. They're very welcome to join us at our other West Side location on Sunday, March 29th. Other than that, I'm not going to really announce much for April yet, given that the Passover is intervening. But if Dahlia wishes to do so, you're very welcome to. Dahlia, go ahead.
Yes, our next Shabbat is in April for Yom HaShoah, April 17th. That's in person. On May 15th, in person, we have the Shavuot Shabbat, which is going to focus on the antecedents and versions of Fiddler on the Roof, and also a shout out to our most recent Shabbat. A substitute, Rebecca, led us in a sing-along for Fiddler on the Roof. May 29th, in person, we have Stars and Shamrocks, Irish and Jewish collaboration, the Timpan Alley, which Susan and Jim Ryan are presenting. So please do put the Shabbats on your calendar.
Thank you, Dahlia. Yes, Luis, I saw your comments. That was in error, and I'm trying to work on fixing that. It is at 7:30, not at 7:45.
That's the reason I signed in late to last week's class.
Yes, I do.
I
am cognizant. I am cognizant, and it was a mistake. I've tried to emphasize several times that it's 7:30
Okay.
but it has not resonated yet with those sending out emails. Okay, so any other announcements? Otherwise, we will begin with our program. Okay, so let's begin. This is a program that I am leading. I am especially excited about this. It is not something that I ever expected to happen personally, as somebody doing the things that I do in the world. I never expected that anything that I wrote would inspire a musical composition of any length, let alone a musical composition that is repeatedly performed and is about half an hour long, maybe 25 minutes. But nor did I think I attended one of the performances, and I was part of the panel, and the composer singled me out as the inspiration for the piece. He totally has credited me. I would have been very comfortable not without that amount of credit, but he chose to do so, and it was really a great pleasure. And it's you may remember that in the winter I was Rabbi Frank officiated at Shabbat by surprise, and that was me attending the performance of this piece in Boston, and it was really special for me. So let me talk about a little bit about what led to the composition of this piece. It involves a book that I wrote. I have presented about this book at City Congregation more than once, so I am not going to do a whole a whole new presentation on it. That is not the purpose of this. But I am going to give you the highlights of the I call it I called it in the title of this talk radical, because it is radical, and that I intend and have intended for many years to shock people with the titles of these lectures. That's why the title of my book is Why Abraham Murdered Isaac, and I use the word murder very deliberately, because that is how we would see it from a modern perspective. Anybody who heard voices in their head and took a child to a mountain and tried to kill him or killed them would be in jail or in a closed institution. They would be deemed crazy, and that is why I call it a murder, and I use that word advisedly. The text, however, this is a text from the Hebrew Bible, from Genesis 22, does not have Isaac being murdered. He is bound, and then God intercedes, or an angel from God intercedes, and Isaac is saved. That is the story as it appears in the biblical text that we have today. I, who have spent much of my life being as a scholar of Hebrew Bible, Jewish texts, have also, this is one of my very early theories that I have been lecturing about literally for 27 years. And it is really, I can't actually emphasize enough how important this text is for history, for the history of religions. It is, in my mind, without a doubt, the most important of the texts in the Hebrew Bible. Not the best known necessarily, but one of the best known. But the text that influenced the course of history more than any other text. And why do I say that? This text deals with two very that has two ways it is read. One is one of the ways that it is read is that this is truly a sign of that the ultimate form of obedience is following God, even if it is at the cost of your life or your children's life. And this is a religious outlook that has been followed many times in the course of religions. It has in the Crusades, rather than having children brought up to be Christian, Jewish parents killed their own children. And there's stories much earlier than that about how Jews would refuse to bow down to idols. Even children would refuse to bow down to idols, and then they would be killed. These stories date they're more than 2,000 years old. That way of reading it is there, whether you see this story as ending with the murder of Isaac or with Isaac being saved. And it is, and so that strain of religious thought, that that strain of zealotry, that you lay down your life in the service of your God, and the loyalty for that particular idea, was really animated animated religious movements, Christianity and Islam, and there's just that martyrdom was celebrated in early Christianity, and then jihad was celebrated in early Islam, and it's still celebrated more than in most religions. And so this is that way of looking at the world has definitely shaped relations between religious groups, and I'm not going to really go into how. The examples are extraordinarily numerous, and so you could ask, well, where are you getting this text that Abraham murdered Isaac? And the answer is that this is the Bible as we have it today. If you pick up a Hebrew Bible from one's shelf, you will, as I said, you will find a story where God or an angel interceded. Where do I get the story that God or an angel didn't intercede? The way I get to that story is through what is called biblical criticism. It's a form of philology, of literary criticism, where I try to uncover a story that was originally there, that was a first story, an earlier story, and then one of the assumptions of biblical criticism is that there are multiple authors that participated in the composition of the biblical text, and so in this case, in the case of Genesis 22, there seem to be two authors, and almost everyone agrees about that. There are two authors. Almost everyone. I shouldn't say that. Almost all Bible scholars agree to that. Or I even should mitigate that even further. All Bible scholars who accept multiple authorship of the Hebrew Bible, because there are plenty of and I would say probably most Bible scholars who don't, given their religious sensibilities. At least Jewish Bible scholars. Christian Bible scholars are more prone to accept the multiplicity of authorship. But most Bible scholars will agree that the text of Genesis 22 was the product of two authors. A early author that used one name for God, and a later author that used another name for God. The early author used the name Elohim. The later author used the name Yahweh. That's the Tetragrammaton. And the later that later author is the one who added on the intercession, the angelic intercession. And in my mind, the participation of this second author, this later author, this interceder, was rather more profound than had been earlier posited. I posited that that this author had actually flipped the story, flipped the script, and that the intercession of the angel actually shifted a story about murder into a story of redemption by God, and so that was I came up with this theory back when I was a master's student at Hebrew University. And at that point, I also answered the why, which is actually critical to understanding why God would have his chosen, the patriarch of his chosen patriarch sacrifice his firstborn, or sorry, not his firstborn, but his most important son. That seems kind of like, why would he do that? Like, what is the what it seems, cruel and unusual, and it doesn't seem like Abraham had done anything to warrant it. And so I've tried to show that Abraham in fact did do something to warrant it. In fact, something quite horrible. Not horrible in our sense of what was moral or not moral, but horrible in the worldview of this particular author. And in particular, Abraham had not trusted in God, and had presented Sarah as his sister instead of his wife, and then Sarah had become impregnated by somebody, by the monarch that Abraham had lied to. And then Isaac was born to Sarah, but Isaac was not really Abraham's son. Isaac was likely a bastard, and that was why Isaac, and that lack of trust led to Isaac being of questionable parentage, and of course the poetic justice is, of course, that Isaac will be sacrificed, and that's what happens. That's the end result of the story. And so it is rather it's a very cruel and violent poetic justice, but it fits very well with a subsequent story and just with the worldview of this particular author. In any case, so that was a little bit about the background of the book. I don't want to stay focused on it. I'll talk a little bit more about my book. I want to shift gears to the actual music. So the composer was inspired by my reading, by my theory that in the first text, in the first version of Genesis 22, Isaac had been murdered and had not been saved. And of course, this is this person is a professor of music at Wheaton College, which has a very robust sacred music program, and is definitely Christian. Not a preacher, but he is, he was very disturbed by my reading. Very how could this be? How could God command the killing of a child and then that child actually be killed? That didn't make sense to him as a religious person. But what he was cognizant of, and the reason that he was inspired to write this piece, is that Isaac is a literary precursor to Jesus. And there is that same kind of dissonance around Jesus's death. Is he actually killed, or is he actually alive? And there are actually multiple endings to the Gospel of Mark that have different ideas of what happened after Jesus's crucifixion. So this is of course, it is that is the context through which he is reading it, and in the New Testament there are a fair number of stories in the New Testament, but really the central story of the New Testament, the one that every other story revolves around, is the Passion of Christ, and it is the story, and that is and so the Jesus figure is the most important, and just this so the way Isaac connects to Jesus, which is very deliberate and explicit in the New Testament and becomes even more deliberate and explicit afterwards is what resonated with him writing this piece. And it's also just that discontinuity in the biblical text from his perspective. How, as a religious person, how could God do this? And that is, I mean, that is a question that is Jesus himself asks on the cross in the New Testament. It's like, how, why have you, God, why have you abandoned me? He said, despite later Christological readings, that is, that is what appears there. And so, for me as a secular reader of text, of course, this is just very interesting. I read this as literature, and this is just simply, this creates from my perspective, a very interesting story of like questionable parentage and it has a horrible ending. I mean, in my mind, but it is an act. It's of poetic justice. And there's a literary dynamic there at work. So that's my perspective. And so, I find it very interesting literarily, and it's also, and I'm the first person to actually have identified the reason for God commanding Abraham to do that within the biblical text. It's one of my, one of the inspirations for much of my graduate work afterwards. And so so it is, I'm for me, it's one of my big contributions to scholarship. So to biblical scholarship, and I regard it as such. I regard, because it really shifts our understanding of the way I read it, shifts our understanding of the story and how it developed, and the relationship of the authors who contributed to the reception of that story. And so, really, for me, it is, I do regard it as as really an important contribution, and always have as basically my contribution. I've hopefully contributed in other ways to the world, to the to the scholarly world. But for me, that has been, I've been talking about this for so long, for more than half my life, that I do regard it as my important contribution. But it was never like, I never expected, from my perspective, that I, other people would be as disturbed by my reading, and that disturbance inspire, artistic output. And it's really, I think that these texts, whether you're, clearly this person is coming from a Christian perspective, but these texts continue to exert influence. These biblical texts continue to exert influence on the course of world history, and I've always thought that ignoring that is kind of to stick your head in the mud. It's not. These biblical texts continue to inspire religious movements, which are kicking strong in in all parts of the world, and especially it's become more increasingly important to understand zealotry and how you deal with it. And these readings, these types of particular readings, especially the story of Isaac, inspires zealotry. It is one of the big texts that has inspired zealotry throughout history, in three religions. It's not. I'm not joking. And so, dealing with this text and it's the disturbance, the moral disturbance that it causes, the discontinuity that it causes through music and through other artistic channels and such, is, I think, an important thing to do. It's not. It's you could say, I just don't. This is unacceptable to me. This is not. And yes, the kind of zealotry should, in my mind, obviously be unacceptable to us. But that, nonetheless, it is clearly not unacceptable to a fair fairly wide, and many groups, fairly wide number of groups in the world. And so these are things that we have to look at, and it's not, you know, you I say this as somebody who regards the Bible as literature. That's how I've always studied the Hebrew Bible from the time I was 18 onwards. And I don't, but having grown up in very religious backgrounds in high school and such, I was in a very right wing yeshiva before I went to university. I've always appreciated the power of these texts. The people that I went to school with, I would say, are inspired by some of the zealotry within those texts. And I don't want to, I don't want to poo-poo it. I am in touch with those people, and I've seen expressions of it. So it is so really to ignore the resonance, even though I read it as literature, I have to acknowledge that others do not read it as literature, and read it as a sacred text, and read it as a text that inspires one to act in a certain way. Abraham is a role model in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And to a certain extent in Baha'ism as well, but in those three religions sequentially. Anyway, so let me talk a little bit more about the piece, because that's the inspiration of the piece. The piece is inspired by this disturbance, by this discontinuity, and the piece doesn't, and specifically the piece does not go into the reasons why God would have commanded Abraham to sacrifice or to kill Isaac. It does not. It does not relate to the background story, to the story of how Abraham did not show himself to be loyal to God and such. It just it simply focuses on Genesis 22 and the horrible act of murder present over there. And I think that it's entirely correct, because though there can be, reasons for something happening, there can be reasons for somebody commanding the murder and somebody murdering. It can never be excused. It is a disturbance. And seeing it as a discontinuity is something that one must, I feel, continue to see it as such. So that is beyond literature and beyond treating the Bible as literature. Okay, so I'm gonna now show this. Okay, so in this version of it, I heard a somewhat longer version. It's 22 minutes long. I'm going to be sharing the screen for that time. This is available afterwards should you want to listen to it in your own time, but I'm going to present it over here. And I'm going to do some adjustments of the volume, but otherwise I'm not going to interrupt the viewing. And then I'll talk about this a little more afterwards, and I'll open up for questions. Okay. Here we go.
took in his hand the flint and the knife. And they went both of them together.
Okay, thank you. That is the piece. Yeah, it is quite a piece. When when you were actually attending it and the level and you're part of it, as you can see that the audience is a part of the piece. They participate in it, and I had a front. I was right in the front, and it is intense, and it was actually in a fuller ensemble than it was in at that initial performance. So yeah, it is. It is a very. It is. I can tell you both clearly. I. I mean, there's a long tradition of sacred music. Anybody who listens to WQXR and listens to Bach, Bach has, most of Bach's work was religiously inspired, one could say. And so I like, appreciated it from that perspective too, but it is like he did offer a musical interpretation of the text, and that is really, really and it was one that was meant to disturb. It was not, it was, the juxtaposition of different instruments and I loved the way he did Amazing Grace and how he like shoved in there and then it all breaks up, which is part of the point. In any case, I'm not obviously not an expert on music, but I can tell you that I listen to WQXR a couple hours a day, and so I appreciate. I'm a big appreciator of music, and I really was moved by this piece, and that is despite a number of things, despite that this was in a church, and clearly, you saw the the iconography over there. That's very religious. But it is. I also want to appreciate that it is not a simple thing to present such a piece in a church for a couple of reasons. And one is that the multiple authorship of the Hebrew Bible is not the normal doctrine of the church. Yes, this is a Protestant denomination, but it is not. That's where Delvin comes from. But he is. But still, it's the Bible scholars that do that kind of thing. The people in the pews, not necessarily, and see the text as a holy text, even though it is the Old Testament for Christians. And so performing it, this is a performance that took place in the church. The performance that I went to did not take place actually, it was in a church, but it wasn't in the sanctuary of a church. Um, and and so that is one aspect of it. It's not it's a piece that offers a subversive reading of a text, and not only that, it was clear to everyone that this was interacting with the reading of the crucifixion. It was like nobody had any illusions. You saw that right up there. It was quite clear with the setting, and so it was like it is the intent is to disturb, and the intent is to you know take like punch at that reading, punch at like say this is not okay. This is like we can be the power of the moment is acknowledged in this the power of that moment and the resonance it has had through history is acknowledged over here, but it's to also say this is not okay. And that is like you see here music going beyond like the pure non-linguistic aesthetic appreciation. There's something more going on here. That's what I mean. That's the field of sacred music. Anyway, Dahlia, go ahead. You had an answer.
Yeah, so I want to ask about this amazing grace dissolving into this, unpleasant sound.
Cacophony, yeah.
So I didn't understand at the time. If I'm understanding you correctly, that is supposed to take the audience's faith and wreck it? Is that what's going? I mean, what's I
That
don't
is one of
understand.
yeah, that is part of it. Yes, absolutely. It is this is a moment where, of deepest belief. This is the moment that Amazing Grace is offered is when Isaac is on the altar and about to be killed. And then Isaac is killed. And then that's when the dissonance the comes in. It's like, how can this be? We're saying Amazing Grace, we're talking about this is like one of the most iconic songs that I mean, people like me who grew up in religious Judaism know it from our youth. This is like a song that's so deeply associated with that moment. And then it's destroyed. It's like, yeah, it's like, and with the participation of the audience, which is a very, very good twist in my mind.
So, but then, how is it not a repudiation of their faith?
Exactly.
Okay. But the people there are obviously believers.
Okay. I don't know. Yes, Max.
Well, I mean, one of the things I really like about this piece was how it doesn't have, despite there being a lot of spoken text around the events, there's a complete absence of spoken text around that moment. And you can infer an awful lot from the music and the staging. But one of the thoughts that crossed my mind was how, perhaps someone listening to this with the perspective of like, no, this is history and God did come down and did all those things, how the breakdown of Amazing Grace might, I mean, I can't speak for someone in that mindset, but it might perhaps force someone to at least grapple with the idea that Abraham didn't know that was going to happen, and he was still setting off to do something fairly horrid, and that this piece doesn't let you get away
Doesn't let
from
you get away
the
with it.
horridness
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, it doesn't let you get away, but you are responsible for your own actions. You are the one who you lifted the knife and you did this.
Yeah.
So that's why it's murder. Yeah. Yeah, Peter, go ahead.
I'm having a hard time my question about how is this to reconcile this in the setting that in our secular humanist Judaism mind for our high holidays, we don't discuss mostly the Akedah, this sacrifice or the binding of Isaac in different.
I have discussed it a fair number of times, actually.
Right. But I'm saying as a general rule, this is not necessarily part of the high holiday liturgy, and how this is being presented as with all the God talk and the theism. I'm just wrestling with it. I'm fascinated by the Akedah. I've read a lot about it, and I even have your book too. But my point is, it's hard to take in. It's just hard to take in this perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it's a work. We regard it as a work of literature. It is not, by the audience over there. It is not regarded as a work of literature. It is
Okay, so it's
yeah.
Right, and that's the point where we can dissect it. I'd like to think we can dissect it and put it in the perspective of just human, in human terms of frailty and subservience, and also as I think you used the word dissonance, or I can't remember the word that was used before. But okay, I'm just having a hard time with it.
I'm not suggesting, Peter, for even one moment that the incorporation of this into our services.
Oh, okay, okay,
But I'm
but the
offering
way
it.
the way
I'm
this
offering it as an artistic, grappling with this, and I think artists have continued to grapple with this moment throughout history, and I think it's important to continue to grapple with it. This is a particular grappling with it. It is because the reason we continue to grapple with it is not because we believe that any of this is true, but because of its influence on the course of history and its continuing influence on the course of history.
No, I
That is
understand that.
something,
Yeah, I understand that. But when I went to the Hermitage in Russia, one of the first things I wanted to see was Rembrandt's painting, because it encompasses all the diverse issues and complexity. And it is a complex story, and I grant that. And it's always to be explored. But now, my other question is, they're using, I think it said at the beginning, a King James version. What you were working with, was it JPS or King James version?
What I was working with was the Hebrew text.
Good. Okay, that's what I was sort of hoping you'd say that because the KJV.
I admire the KJV as actually a work of great scholarship. In its time, it was actually a very, 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 very impressive in this respect. And
I probably can say groundbreaking in its time.
I've never in my life studied Bible from translation, because I'm a person, and I had a fairly unique upbringing on this. My parents tried to raise me in biblical Hebrew, meaning I'm fluent in it. I could speak it if I wished. It's not, it's a somewhat different dialect than modern Hebrew. So it's like, no, I've never studied. I've never done this, and I've never, I've never studied Bible aside from in the Hebrew. Yes, but it is from the King James, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I have several hands here.
Go ahead.
Dahlia or Howard, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm still a little confused about what the analogy is between this story and Jesus. I mean, I know it's the Father and the Son, but I'm still a little lost as to why then God felt he had to sacrifice Jesus. Did God do something wrong? I'm a little confused as to.
Well, Jesus was dying for the sake of humanity, for the sake of, I mean, that was for humanity's sins. That tie is made explicit with Isaac in rabbinic literature as well. It said that Isaac, Isaac's willingness to be sacrificed, and Abraham's willingness to sacrifice him should, are moments in Jewish history that should lead God to have compassion on the Jews. And so, so not the sins of humanity, but at least the sins of the Jews. Okay, so that is the firmest tie, but the literary ties are very strong between the two figures. Anyway.
Okay.
Max or Emmy?
No, I just had a thought following up on what Peter said, that it's very common for secular folk to have conversations around these stories in our own circle, and it's common for believing folk to have conversations in their circle about their stories. And those conversations don't overlap very much. And I rather enjoy the idea that our conversations about those stories might have something to say and might be of benefit to the people who are believers who talk about these stories. And I'm glad that this is an example of that very thing happening.
This is what was actually remarkable. You're pointing to exactly the remarkable aspect of this, Max, which is the fact that this is I wrote he found my book, but he found an article about this first. It was written for it was a secular piece. It was that's how I write. I don't write any other way.
Yeah.
And he used it, and then he had to contend with it religiously, and so yes, it was
I'm
that was very
delighted that
interesting.
happened, and
Yeah.
I'm also just observing how not to put words in your mouth, Peter, but you said that you were sort of grappling with that, and it can be sometimes those when those two circles cross over, it can be a little disturbing and a little uncomfortable, and I'm also
Yeah.
art is one of the ways in which we can 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 have those conversations and grapple with those difficult ideas. So I don't know. I'm just so delighted that this has happened.
Thank you, Max. So this was really it's something, sometimes life throws surprises at you, and this was genuinely a surprise when he reached out to me in 2020 that he had done this. And I said, wow, I don't know, I don't know what to say. I'm flabbergasted. And then I listened to it and it was even more flabbergasted. And then and I said, well, I'm never going to actually hear this in person. And then he's performed it so many times now, and he performed it at the Society of Biblical Literature, which is like Society of Biblical Literature is actually a place where they do both secular and religious scholarship of the Hebrew Bible, and it was like the perfect occasion to do it, and he did it. He got funding for it, and it was so just so wonderful for me, and that's why I heard about it a week before it was actually happening, and so I scrambled to get there. But I'm still a little bit shell shocked around the piece. It is for me. It's not the like religious aspect of it. It's more. This is a text that I've been studying and presenting on for so long, and so it is to have a text that I somewhat have led to a certain reputation that I have be so seminal in the composition of something else. That is what that is how it resonated for me personally. It's like that depth of interaction with my ideas was not one that that I ever expected to happen. Yes, Dahlia, you have another question.
Yeah. So when they see what you write, they see it as a piece of scholarship. And scholarship can be written by people of many different religious backgrounds, right? Both your parents are Judaic scholars who are personally religious. But to what extent did they know about, and how did they react to you as a secular humanist Jew? And also, I almost feel like now that I saw that, like the amazing grace being silent by the discordant sound, it seems like a how can you have this kind of faith, and almost like you wouldn't want to, even if you're doing that, you wouldn't want to show it to an outside skeptic.
Yeah. How did my parents contend with it? My parents have been, I would say, deeply comfortable with they don't share, we don't share religious outlook, very obviously, but they have been extraordinarily supportive of my path. I grew up in the type of religious household. This is a religious household that's found in academic families in particular, where the reasons for doing things were never articulated in terms of God said so. It was more in terms of this is what we're doing as a family, or this is what our community is doing. And so that left me space to actually, to think about why I was doing things and understand and then, go at it for my own terms. My parents always gave me that freedom. That's something that is deeply, deeply valued in my family. My parents have never like forced a dogma on us. Never, and never expected us to believe anything particular. Yes, it's for me, this moment resonates in a completely different direction, and that is this moment of dissonance and discontinuity resonates with me as for me. The reason I became a humanist, as this was brought up in the chat, has to do with the Holocaust, and always for me that will always be the moment of dissonance and discontinuity in history. And it's there that any for me, the course of any history that is that has grace attached to it has been completely destroyed. There's no chance of that, and it's completely there's been a discontinuity in my mind, and so from the moment I was a teenager, I was a deep skeptic because of that same type of discontinuity. Yes, Peter.
I just discovered while looking in the book, I stuck a card in from a Temple Emmanuel seminar of some sort from Sunday, November 16th. I don't know, 2008, 4, I don't know, but it's called The People versus Abraham. The defense was Alan Dershowitz, and the prosecution was Elliot Spitzer. And this was a trial led of a text study led by Rabbi Davidson, Joshua Davidson, as a courtroom drama, pitting against these two acts of and issues. And I don't think I attended it, but now I'm seeing this. It's giving me a different illumination to this story that I had forgotten about, which I don't think is technically addressed per se in this musical piece.
Yeah.
But now that I'm thinking about it, it could use that level of defense and prosecution. I think that's what maybe I think a very Jewish concept is, to take these sides and grapple with it, not only in a sermon for high holidays, but maybe even in this context. I don't know, but it's kind of surprised me discovering this. So take it where you will on this.
No, listen, I would say that for me, why I feel that this was such a contribution to scholarship was this text literally has had libraries written about it. It's not a text that has is short on commentary. And the fact that for me, when I was growing into my own as a scholar of biblical literature, to discover that I could say something new about this text was seminal, significant to me. I'm not the first to suggest that Isaac was indeed killed. That was something as early as rabbinic midrash. I was the first to offer the reason, and reason it, through in a literary analysis. And for me, that was, that contribution was, really when I was 20, this is when it happened. When I first thought of these ideas, that was really gave me confidence to continue on my path. And I can tell you the reception of the first time that I gave this lecture, people were clamoring to get at me. If it had been if it had been a different context, it would have been a mob. They were shouting for my blood at that, for my first presentation of this idea. So this is a text that evokes that kind of reaction, and I was giving a radical rereading that said very bad things about both Abraham and God, and so that made people highly uncomfortable.
So, Semek, with that in mind, how are we as secular humanistic Jews to process this I'm not looking for a definite way, but is there a method to, besides writing about it like you did or seeing the opera being performed, but how are we just the
It's a good
Russians
question. It's a
could
good
get
question,
along with it,
Peter, and I
and
appreciate it.
and
I
also
don't think there's one way. I don't think there's one way. Meaning, it's not like for me, the reason I processed this the way I did was, as I said, it was something that was. It's a text that I've been talking about for 27 years, and it's not so. Given that it's been that long for me, it's a text that has acquired that kind of significance. I would be the last one to say that anyone here should find this text, resonant or significant if they don't already. Meaning, you're welcome to, but it's not. But I'm not, I think that what we do need to grapple with is the continuing, and this is something that secular society, there was a lull for a generation now, and that lull is over, friends. You have to contend with the fact that the biblical texts and religious texts continue to exert a powerful influence on world history. We cannot ignore that as human beings anymore. I'm sorry, that is something that we need to do. We need to contend with.
So this about disobedience or answering back or firing back or not agreeing?
I can't hear you, Peter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't have the microphone. I apologize profusely. With all this, are we finding this we have to be, or we're learning to be disobedient and not obviously believe in everything we read, but even in political terms today, it's just because someone says so doesn't mean we do it. My mother used to say, and she still says at 90, if everyone said jump off a cliff, would you jump off a cliff too?
I certainly would hope not, Peter. Meaning,
I have a fear of heights.
Of course, we, the way you contend with this, the way you do battle, is one of the first and critical element is to have a knowledge. And that is what, I talk about this. This is, if there's something that I emphasize more than anything else, it's that people should know what it says. That I'm not telling people that you should understand it in this way. That is beyond me, and I don't want to do that. I've never tried to inculcate beliefs in anyone, but we have to know what it says in order to actually effectively counter it. It's just that you can't, you have to know the terrain. You can't go to battle without knowing the terrain. Max Ramy.
Oh no, just on the subject of political ramifications of this story, I wanted to shout out and amplify something that Emmy threw in the chat earlier, was how in this performance, how there was the shaking bells and the bass clarinet wandered through the audience every time, except the last time when it was only the shaking bells, inviting the reading of Isaac not coming along on that final
They
journey.
murdered the bass clarinet.
Yeah, and then when everyone took out those bells and shook them, I think Emmy and I both had the reaction of
Everyone's complicit.
feeling complicit.
That's right.
Forcing
The
complicity
audience is
into the face of
complicit.
the audience, and
entirely intentional. He wanted it that way.
Yeah.
And
he told me, he said this to me, articulated it explicitly afterwards.
And
very effective.
Very effective, and I think one of the things that the believers of this as religious doctrine ought to grapple with is
you're complicit in this. What are you buying into? You have to think about it. I entirely agree. Yes, I think it is very important for religious people to listen to these kinds of pieces. Not that most are. This is like he's a religious person, but he is, I would say, a subversive religious person. And I mean, good for him, but I don't know who he's performed this multiple times. I don't know who he's reaching. But it's very interesting, and there were like I remember, there was an audience of about 60 when I saw it performed, and many of them were religious Christians. Some of them were secular Jews. But they were disturbed by the piece. It was disturbing. It was not and they talked about that. Okay, I could talk about this forever, but because it is of deep interest to me. But I want to honor the time. We're already at 9:20. It's fairly late, so I'm going to stop here in terms of this discussion. We're very welcome to stick around. And should you have any questions, at some point, I'm planning to bring this guy and his ensemble to New York. So if you ever want to see this live, there will be an opportunity to do so at some point. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
You.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Good night.
Okay. Good night.
You want to hang on?
Melanie, what do you have to say? I'm curious. Mel?
Tsema, I can't stop the stream. Are you able to?
Yeah, I can stop this.
Melanie, you there?
Yeah,
What do you got to say?
I give you a thumbs up.
That was succinct.
Interesting.
Well, what does interesting mean? What is das?
Oh, now we're getting into philosophy.
No, just what makes it curious? Does it confound your vision of the Akeda?
Well, I always thought that maybe Abraham was a little bit schizophrenic or something, you know.
Wow, that's great.
That religion is based on mental illness.
Oh,
But I once went to a JCC, you know, maybe it was a Talmud discussion or something, and I mentioned my opinion. And was it maybe a rabbi, probably a reform or conservative rabbi who was leading it, was just like, well, we'll just put that, you know, they basically discounted that option. We had to we couldn't, you know, it was like we had to think about it in other ways, I guess. So, but yeah, that's my opinion.
oh, that's great. So everyone's mashugging in these stories, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if one doesn't believe in God, then who are you here? You know, the voices are coming from inside the house, you know. So, or you're making them up. So you're sort of either